The following podcast contains explicit language. You're listening to the Cinematography podcast presented by Hot Rod Cameras, a program about the art, craft, and philosophy of the moving image and the people who make it happen. Coming to you from the world headquarters of Hot Rod Cameras in Hollywood, California, are your hosts, Ben Rock and Ilya Friedman.
Hey, Ben. Welcome back.
Oh, it's so exciting to be here. I am freezing in the Midwest. Freezing my tits off, as we like to say.
Well, it is the season. It's the season for that, right?
Oof. Yeah.
It's not Los Angeles anymore.
No, it was pretty cold in Los Angeles,
yes,
though. I'm not going to complain about the weather.
Yes, by not complaining about the Los Angeles cold, it got down to like 51.
No. It was like 45 degrees, humid, and overcast for like a week in Los Angeles.
Oh, brr.
Which for Los Angeles, that's just pure misery in Los Angeles.
Okay.
For the rest of the world, not too bad. I often say that I left Florida because it was too cold there for me.
That's right. Yeah. On the show today is Sayombhu Mukdeeprom, and he's been on the show before, so he's returning. And this time you did the interview and not me.
Yeah. We did the interview. He was in Thailand when I was talking to him, which I think makes this the furthest Zoom that we've done. Although we've done a few to Australia. Australia is probably about as far away as Thailand.
Similar. Yeah, for sure. And the movie is 13 Lives, right?
Yeah, 13 Lives, directed by Ron Howard. It's about the kids who were trapped in a cave in Thailand during a monsoon and the people who had to figure out how to go in and save them. To me, this is primo perfect Ron Howard material. And we talk about this a little bit because like when I think about Ron Howard, the movies of his that have stuck the most with me anyway are movies like Apollo 13, Rush, Frost Nixon. His movies, when they fire on all cylinders to me, are often about everyone trying to solve the same problem. And the problem is the villain. So like in Apollo 13, obviously it's that this spaceship that's going to the moon, true story, starts malfunctioning and they have to figure out how to like improvise a way to keep these guys alive. This is a lot like that, right down to problems with air. And Mukdeeprom does an amazing job. I don't want to spoil it too much from the interview, but it's like I kind of assumed that they'd gone back to the real caves and stuff. Nope, all sets.
Yeah, it's great.
He did a great job selling that stuff.
All right, so before we get to the interview, what do we have to talk about for our close focus segment of the show?
Well, I think that we should talk about this despite the fact that we both have a certain degree of ignorance to the actual material that we're talking about, which is Avatar 2, The Way of Water.
Oh, yes.
And I feel like we probably need to do a part 2 of this after we've seen the movie. I just haven't had a chance to see it. It opened and I was in the middle of traveling for Christmas with a 4-year-old and there's no time to take in a 3.5 hour movie in that.
I think it's only 3 hours. I think it's only 3 hours.
Only 3 hours. They should put that on the poster. Only 3 hours.
It is actually 3 hours and 12 minutes, but you got to figure probably like 8 of those last 12 minutes are probably credits. So, it's probably
add some trailers onto the front of that and you're there for 4 hours.
There is discussion on the internet right now about when to take bathroom breaks, like what scenes are not worth sticking around for. So you can you leave and come back.
Well, did you hear what James Cameron said about that? James Cameron was like, take a bathroom break whenever you want because you're going to see it again in the theater. It's like, that's a very confident, very, very confident man.
That is confidence.
I feel like the thing about James Cameron, and it's happened so many times in his career, where that guy, he doesn't play small ball. He goes all in on every project. And as a result, it's like his projects just knock it out of the park. They make shit tons of money every single time. I think The Abyss might be the only movie that had kind of a tepid box office. It didn't like blow everybody's mind. But most of the other ones, especially like Titanic, everyone was ready for Titanic to fail because I think it was the most expensive movie ever made at that time. And of course, as we all know, Titanic won Best Picture, won a ton of Oscars, and also made, I don't know how much money, but just blew away the box office. Yeah. And he's only made one movie since Titanic, and that was the first Avatar, which everyone was like, what the hell is this? And then it is, to this day, I believe, the highest grossing movie of all time when you adjust for inflation.
Yeah, he only takes moonshots, it seems like. His swings get bigger and bigger.
Yeah, so it's taken him 13 years to get here. He's still kind of trying to get people into the high frame rate mode of watching his movies. So apparently, if you go see the movie in 3D, there is some chance that, look at the fine print, because you might be also seeing it in high frame rate. But apparently the frame rate changes from scene to scene. So he's like playing with frame rate. So it'll be 24 frames per second, and then suddenly it'll be 48 frames per second with no warning. And some people find that very immersive, and some people find that outrageously jarring. I haven't seen it yet, so I can't tell you which.
It's interesting because I happened to watch Puss in Boots 2 last night, and it's animated, and they do a little bit of playing with frame rate in the animation style. And this happened a little bit as well in the Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse animated movie. And I think actually in animation, you can make a slightly better case for it because you are making an approximation, since there's no camera there at all, of changing how smooth you want this animation to be at one point or another. But when you're talking about live action, and I don't know if Avatar really qualifies entirely as live action, because it kind of seems like it's a big cartoon.
Yeah, it's kind of its own
hybrid
thing in a way.
Yeah,
it's like real performance capture, real motion capture, a lot of CGI, like mostly CGI.
I'm going to go in with an open mind. Like my first gut reaction is always, there is only one correct frame rate as your base for cinema, but I'm going to go in with an open mind, being that I feel like Avatar is essentially animated or mostly animated, and who knows, maybe it'll work. I'm skeptical, but I'm still going in with an open mind. I'm going to try and make the best of it, but it's a bold choice. And the comments on the social media networks has not been kind from most people. Some people love it, and they might also just love to watch a 3-hour sort of video game aesthetic. Other people have been vehemently opposed to it, and basically, if you to believe what they've written, this is the downfall of cinema, the downfall of art. This is like something as tragic as can be.
Oh, I mean, look, I saw The Hobbit in high frame rate, the first one. Ooh. I did not see the other Hobbits in high frame rate, and I was like, I hate this format. I hate this format. I hate, I don't know.
It's smooth scan at Best Buy or in your hotel room, and you can't turn it off.
It was, and the thing is, it was smooth scan, but in a way it was even worse because it was giving you way more information than smooth scan would give you. So you could see the actors' contact lenses. It basically took what 24 frames made kind of a cinematic experience in the Lord of the Rings movies, and then it made it look like you were just standing there looking at these people dressed like this. And it just looks like Ian McKellen in a community theater production of The Hobbit. And I found it really distracting. And like a lot of people said, I feel, and I agreed with this, like big landscape shots or aerial shots, I found less problematic than shots with actors in them. Will aliens in high frame rate be bothersome? I don't know. I don't want to go see lots of movies made like this. I don't want to be also the get off my lawn old codger standing in the way of the evolution. I won't call it progress because it's not really progress. We had show scan in, 1987 or something. It didn't catch on.
Yes, that's true.
This idea has not caught on in the past. The thing that James Cameron has realized, and it's not the biggest realization, is that 24 frames per second now is more of a choice. It's like show scan, you were running, I think it was 60 frames per second, 35 millimeter film, and then projecting it at 60 frames or whatever the frame rate was.
Yeah, it was 48, I believe.
So it was double. And so film, of course, is very expensive, but data, not nearly as expensive as film. You're just using up more hard drive space. So there's really not a financial limitation, especially when you're James Cameron and you're doing R&D on your movie for 5 years.
Yeah, and speaking of that, though, didn't he make some outrageous claim about how much money the movie has to make just to break even?
This is what I heard, and I would be happy for anyone to correct me and tell me I'm wrong. The number I heard was $2 billion, that the movie has to make $2 billion in order to break even. Now, they shot Avatar 2 and 3 virtually back-to-back, so we're going to get treated to another Avatar next year. We don't have to wait 13 years for Avatar 3. But basically, James Cameron, who I think is in so many ways one of the most brilliant and forward-thinking filmmakers, certainly of his generation. I'm a little bummed out that what we get from him is going to be sort of these ecology fables that are quasi-animated blue people, basically Fern Gully meets The Last Samurai kind of things. And that's the only world he's going to play in for the rest of his career, potentially. Like he's kind of said that Lightstorm, his company, isn't going to make any non-Avatar movies moving forward. And I'd love to see his particular genius applied to something else, because he's been, most of my life, he's been a humongous force, but also he's sort of been the J.D. Salinger of filmmakers for the last 20 years, more than 20 years. He's made one movie in 20 years. Well, now he's made two movies. And I'm very interested to see what it is, because I do think he's a master craftsman. One person said something that I think it was my friend Rob Shep, said that a movie can be like pretty good and also fucking amazing at the same time. And I think that's kind of what I'm going in expecting. I'm expecting story-wise to not really, the story is the thing to hang all of the genius stuff onto, not the other way around. It's not going to be a story that's going to like knock my socks off as a story. Everyone is saying like visually, it's just a 3-hour orgasm. So,
well, it remains to be seen. Hey, if it really is $2 billion that it's got to make its money back, after this weekend, it's already 13% of the way there. So, you know.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. Don't underestimate this guy, because supposedly he had to bet all the money he was going to make to finish Titanic. And so he didn't really actually make that much money off of Titanic. And Titanic was, you know, again, at the time, I think the highest grossing movie of all time. But also, like, I get into arguments with people because I don't love Titanic, and people freaking love Titanic. I was like, yeah, it's okay, whatever. And people are like, that is the best movie that has ever been made. And I'm like, hey, enjoy. I'm not here to yuck your yum. I just don't, it didn't do it for me. I prefer the Terminator 2 James Cameron over every other James Cameron that ever existed, or the Abyss James Cameron. But to each their own. And James Cameron as an artist is allowed to grow out of being my personal favorite guy. Like, he doesn't have to make movies. He's not making it for me. He's making it for himself.
That's for sure. Well, hey, I think it's a great place to leave it. Let's get to the interview with Sayombhu Mukdeeprom.
Here we go.
The Cinematography Podcast Interview.
In Thailand, we're talking to the amazing Sayombhu Mukdeeprom, who shot the new movie 13 Lives, which you can now watch streaming on Amazon Prime. An amazing, amazing film, like intense. My wife and I were watching it, and my wife kept hyperventilating and freaking out, you know, in the underwater scene. So thank you very much for coming back on the show. I'm a big fan of Ron Howard's. We've had Ron on the show, actually. What brought you into the orbit of Ron Howard to work on this film?
Good question. I think Ron just needs someone who know better Thailand than average, you know, and to be near him.
But I mean, I feel like when, you know, because I'm pretty familiar with a lot of your work, and I feel like your work has a really strong point of view. And I feel like even in something like Suspiria, which is supernatural and amazing and fantastical, you're really good at grounding stuff and making it feel very real. And this is a story that just happened. I mean, it's only a few years ago that these kids were trapped in this cave. And it was hard for me to watch it without thinking of another Ron Howard movie, and that was Apollo 13, where it's basically about a bunch of people arguing about the best way to get someone out of a horrible situation. But stylistically, it's very, very, very different from Apollo 13 in that Apollo 13 is cinematic and gorgeous and feels like maybe even an older movie. Like, it's grandiose. This feels like raw and personal and like you're right there. Can you talk about the ways that you kind of achieve that feeling?
First of all, Apollo 13 was twice times of the shooting days, more than.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah.
Right.
And what you're doing also looks, I don't know how dangerous it really is, but it looks dangerous. You're doing real underwater stuff.
Yeah. So, I mean, on the other hand, it fit quite well with the approach that we would love to have, because we don't want to kind of like set up a shot and set up another shot, but we rather have all the actor or the extra or what inside the frame. This way, it kind of mimic the way of when we are shooting documentary.
Yeah. It really had a documentary feel.
Yeah. So that's why when we ready to shoot, we went very fast, you know, and trying to get rid of anything that bring us out of reality. Like even my camera, if it has to be under the rain, I go under the rain without any protection. Of course, you know, just plastic bag, but not, you know, fancy cover or something like that, to get the feeling of, you know, we are really in the
like
environment.
when you're watching the movie, you start to feel like you're wet. You feel like
that's
you're
correct. Yeah, because of when we were shooting, the camera operator was wet also.
Oh,
You see what I
wow.
mean? So okay, you feel the wet.
Well, and and water is practically a character in this movie. Is there an approach that you take to filming underwater or the rain stuff, or how to make water? I know it's not the cinematographer's job to make the water do what the water is going to do, but how did you approach it?
My first task when I arrived Australia is to thinking about how to shoot underwater
Mm-hmm.
because of this is so demanding task, right? So
Yeah.
I start with my second unit DOP and Drew Lowlands. So I kind of establish, the fundamental rules that we are going to shoot underwater.
Mm-hmm.
So we know what we deal with. I asked my colorist to supply me with a film LUT for Alexa, and we starting to working on that LUT. Like we want to find out how much light above water we
Yeah.
should give to have the a good amount of brightness intensity underwater. What kind of fuel light we're gonna need? What kind of equipment we're gonna need? So we end up with Astra with underwater fuel protection. Then when it's done, we have to split. I have to go to do first unit, then Andrew Roland have to do second unit, which mostly he responds to do underwater shooting.
So, I mean, how much were you interacting with second unit? Some people kind of send second unit on their way, and it's separate.
Yeah. They keep sending in. They even have the real time viewing from the second unit to first unit.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, but I mean, I just have a time just to glance, but I have to concentrate on what second unit have to do.
Yeah,
so I have no time at all. You know what I mean?
Well, and I kept wondering while I was watching the movie, how much of the locations and stuff that you were in were real, and how much of them were sets.
No, 100% set.
Really? All the caves, all the underwater stuff.
Yes, even in the front, except some shot at the very beginning of the movie when the kid bicycling to the mountain.
Yeah.
That part. That's the only part that we shot in real location in Thailand.
And you said the rest of it was Australia, like sound stages?
Yes.
Was there any discussion about possibly, I mean, like, I know you probably wouldn't shoot the underwater stuff in real underwater caves because that sounds dangerous. But the stuff where there's a lot of work inside these caves. Was there ever discussion about doing that in real caves?
No, not in real cave because of it's impossible anyhow.
Yeah.
So even because of we have to cut section of the cave to be able to film. It's impossible to shoot in real cave. Impossible.
Yeah, I was wondering while I was watching it, like, I didn't know that it was in Australia. And I was like, I wonder if this is the real, like, how much of this is the real place where it all really happened. But it makes total sense, especially for the underwater stuff. It is so suspenseful when they're underwater. What were the references that you looked at?
Yeah, mostly we look at the documentary.
Oh, really?
And because of the reality that we feel, that we can bring the audience to feel that they are with the characters. That is the feeling that we really want.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like that was, again, like, I don't know if I'm inartfully saying it. Like, I love Apollo 13, but Apollo 13 feels like I'm watching a movie. And this feels like I am there in this space. And the suspense and the danger of it were so palpable. Were there any ways in terms of your lens selection, or what were the ways that you went about filming these situations to make it feel as claustrophobic and dangerous as it was?
So I try to make the camera dynamic as much as I can. I just put camera on my shoulder, trying to be static as much as I can, which is I can't.
Yeah.
But is that what I mean?
Yeah.
That kind of feeling.
Were you operating most of it?
Yeah. I operate second B camera in first unit.
Oh, okay. Why is I talk to a lot of cinematographers who operate B camera. Why don't you operate A camera?
Because A camera have too much responsibility for the shot. Mm-hmm. You have to be a bit away and look around.
But
you see what I mean?
But as a cinematographer,
for the lighting,
I mean, I see what you're saying, and I'm just asking out of my own ignorance. But as a cinematographer, if you're operating B camera, how are you able to see what A camera is doing? Do you have a separate monitor and you're watching them as well?
If you have enough experience,
Yeah.
you can have that vision.
Okay.
You see what I mean? You
Yeah,
see what I
yeah.
mean? You see, you can have that vision. What kind of shot that he get. You can even guess. Like he planned too late. I think. Okay, let's see. You see what I mean? This
Yeah.
is perfect timing. You can you can guess. You can feel.
That's interesting. Yeah, yeah. I mean, I've never asked anyone that, but I feel like I talk to a lot of cinematographers, and it's
Yeah,
like,
I mean, because of the responsibility of the first camera in
mhm.
terms of technical movement, or it requires so many skill to make it happen, and you have to be very focused on that task, so that prevent you from see the overall environment, which is very important for DOP.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and from a lighting standpoint, again, like I'm watching this movie and I seriously didn't know that it was all on sets, although, thinking about it, that's probably the safest and best way to do it, and also probably the best environmental choice. But how did you go about the way that you lit it? It looked like I was in a real space. It didn't feel like a set at all. And I feel like that's an enormous testament to your lighting. What was your approach to that lighting? I mean, these are all locations where people would have to bring lights in anyway, once you get inside caves and stuff. So were you using the kinds of lights people would use just to light that up? Or were you using a lot of movie fixtures and mix of the two? What was your approach?
Yeah, you are right. I use a lot of practical light. I mean, the light that they use for real inside the cave. So I have to select very well what color, what intensity that I need, where to place it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but of course, then I need to, every step we have the overhead open to have a kind of general ambient. But actually, there's no general ambient in the cave. You see what I mean? Because it's all covered. So, but we have to have that camera to record. But you have to have that in a very good level, so you don't feel that it's so obvious.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's not so much different when you're thinking about how to lit the room with practical light. It's not so much different.
Yeah, again, if you're in an underground cave, you obviously, like, those people brought in all their own lighting.
Yeah, yeah. Because at the beginning, I was thinking very hard what method that I can use in this environment. And I know it's going to be very fast according to what we have to do. So I have to set up something that very wide and broad and function very well for every angle of the camera. So at the end, I end up asking a lot of extra, even the actor themselves, to do my lighting tasks. Can you hold it for me and point down when you talk? Yeah, say like that. So it bounced to the ground and bounce back to the face.
Well, and you're working with like big movie stars like Colin Farrell and Viggo Mortensen, but they also, I mean, I don't know either one of them, but they seem like they're the kind of people who'd be game to do that.
Yeah, but I mean, actually, they are very professional actors. So
yeah.
We are having fun doing this.
No, that's my point. It's like they seem like they're the kind of people who would enjoy that. Some actors might be like, you do the lighting, I'll do the acting, but those guys both seem like they're not. They don't want to necessarily look like a perfect movie star in every shot. They want to look like these real guys in this situation.
That's correct. I mean, at the end, I think like even Vigo found it fun to do it.
I'm just imagining though, like as you described that too, like how detailed were those sets that basically those guys could point a light in any direction and whatever the light hit, that set was going to look fine.
Yeah, you have to give the credit to Molly Hill, the production designer, and the set builder. They look so real, and I mean it's not only look real, but it have to support all the weight of the crew.
Yeah, and
equipment. So it's a very difficult task for them, and they make it very, very well and very good.
So, like, what percentage of the crew would you say was from Thailand?
No, zero. The crew is all from Australia.
Oh, it was mostly Australian. Oh, okay.
Yeah, except some one art directors, that in art department who take care of Thai look on the set, and a couple of a casting and producer from Thailand.
Because like we haven't had a lot of people from the Thai film industry on here, but when I worked in Thailand, I was shocked at how vibrant the Thai film culture was, how many movies were made there. And I mean, this is going back to the 90s when I was there. But, you know, there's a big industry of filmmaking in Thailand, if I'm not mistaken, isn't there?
Yes, it's correct. I mean, we are one of the international hub of filmmaking, and we have a good quality film crews.
The movie I worked on in Thailand, like I'd say 2/3 of the crew were Thai, and they were amazing. They did a great job.
Yeah, that's correct. That's true.
I feel like it's a true story, but it's also kind of a nail-biting thriller, and it's in that tradition of movies where basically the antagonist is the world, nature, whatever. It's not like
that's
one
correct.
person.
That's correct. That's why when I first read the script, that made me very happy because this is the movie that I see in my head. This kind of story, you can easily change it to superhero things.
No, they never felt like that. They all felt like the real kinds of people. You know, and kind of looking at the work of yours that I've seen, like I feel like one of the things that really comes across is your work is really great with characters, and you take on stuff that's very genre sometimes, like Suspiria or Beckett. I don't know if it's about the way you choose the movies you work on or if it's something you bring to them, but that the characters really come alive in your frame.
Mm-hmm.
Is there something that you do to make that happen?
Yes, I think I did it, but I don't know how. I just give them, because for me, it's not about shooting. It's not about framing. It's about what they are going to do, how they are going to do. Okay, doing the way is good. So I put camera here, to respond to their action or the movement, rather than you set up the camera and said, okay, you run in this way and go to the left.
Well, you have another interview you need to do in a few minutes, and I think that about wraps us up. Congratulations again on 13 Lives. Before we go, is there any place people can find you online, either to see your work or interact directly with you?
I have nothing. I just have...
If you're not on social media, you have like 4 more hours in your day than I do, so congratulations. So thank you so much for coming on the show. Again, this is your second time on here, and I can't recommend highly enough for people to check out 13 Lives. It's on Amazon Prime. It's a really gripping thriller, and it's a true story, and it's just so well made. So and it looks amazing. So thank you so much for coming back on the show.
Thank you so much.
So that was Sayombhu Mukdeeprom. Hey, thanks again for being back on the show, and I can't wait to see 13 Lives. I'm excited about this.
Yeah. Well, I think it's on Amazon Prime, so you can go see it right now. If you have Amazon Prime, you can just hop right on there and watch it right away.
It may be in my immediate future, maybe in the next 20 minutes. So we'll see.
The feel-good movie of Christmas 2022.
I can't wait. I'm looking forward to it.
And now, short ends.
So Ben, it is our short end time of the show. It's where we talk about sort of our obsession. It could be almost anything. It could be media. It could be technology. It could be something personal. What's your short end this week?
Well, I'm going to continue shilling for Adobe, as I want to do. They released
Never heard of them.
little company who we might edit every episode on Adobe Audition. From the beginning, we've been using Adobe Audition for this show since 2013. So they came out with a new thing called Speech Enhancer, and I have yet to do the side-by-side with Descript, which I've also talked about on here. But Speech Enhancer, if you have audio that's got human speech, it is using AI, and AI is like, Adobe calls it Sensei. Speech Enhancer uses Adobe Sensei, and you can take your audio and upload it for free, I believe. I don't think you even need to have an Adobe Creative Cloud subscription. So if you have audio and upload it to Adobe Speech Enhancer, and it will basically use AI to take everything out of it except for the voice, which Descript does. And I use Descript on a lot of I have used Descript over the last 2 years on virtually every project I've done. Even when the audio is pretty good, if there was like a little bit of echo, I would run it through Descript, which you can do for free. It's a desktop thing, but it's actually uploading it to the cloud and then using AI to enhance it and then downloading a new file to your computer. Depending on what it is, it can take a while. I don't know how long the Adobe Speech Enhancer takes, but I've watched a bunch of demos of it, and it will fix mic handling noise.
Wow.
It will fix plosives.
Wow.
It will fix sibilants, S's.
Yeah, I get some of those.
It will fix reverb.
Wow.
And I think it will also fix distortion. You hit a point where you can't bring it back.
Yeah.
But unlike a lot of the filters that we use in Audition or Pro Tools or whatever, what it's looking at is it's saying like, here are the missing frequencies, or here's, what your voice should sound like in this place. And it's making an AI interpretation, which my assumption is also sometimes I bet that comes out hilariously wrong. But
yeah.
But I have to say, like with this script, again, which I've been using for well over a year, and they have a thing called Studio Sound, which I've been using. It's shockingly, it's more good than it is bad. I've hit a couple of instances where Descript couldn't do what I needed to get done, and so I just had to roll with the crappy original audio and try and repair it other ways. But I'm excited to try this because I'm assuming that Adobe is going to eventually bundle this into Premiere and Audition and the rest of the Creative Suite so that you can just use this stuff. That's my hope. It's the equivalent of like, if you know how to use color grading or After Effects, if you're like, oh, there's a thing in the shot that we don't want. We could take an hour to move it, or we could just live with it and paint it out, right? And I feel like it's going to do that for audio, where it's like, hey, a helicopter just went over, but we had the best performance ever. I have confidence that we can pull the helicopter out. Now that might be too much to pull out, but like I have confidence that I can deal with the cat meowing, 2 doors down, no problem. Or oh, this room sucks, but I know that I can make it work in post without it being a humongous thing. Now there have been tools like Isotope RX, which is I think still the gold standard in repairing audio that's compromised, shall we say. But it's also very expensive. So if you're already spending money for the Adobe Creative Cloud, or again, like I don't think you even need to have a Creative Cloud subscription, check it out. Run your audio through Adobe Audio Enhancer. See if it makes an improvement.
Cool. It sounds awesome. Yeah, I went to the Adobe website while we were chatting here, and I found Sensei, and you can click on Adobe AI for creative projects, and it just takes you to Creative Cloud. So it must be, integrating into some of the stuff.
Like anything that they use that uses AI of any kind. So like if you transcribe your audio in Premiere, which I use that on virtually everything. Anyway, enough waxing Adobe's car. Ilya, can you tell me what is your short end?
Well, I had a really nice Facebook Messenger conversation with a client just this morning, and we do this thing. Basically, it starts around Black Friday, and it's not something that, at least I'm aware of, that any other camera shop does. So here I'm taking off my podcast host hat and putting on the president of Hot Rod Cameras hat. We do a thing called an unadvertised sale. And the only way that people know about the unadvertised sale is basically word of mouth. And we do it basically every year, starting on a Black Friday, and it goes to the end of the year. I teased it a little bit on this podcast before, but I'm going to give a little bit more information. We have some clients in particular who want to shop for exotic items, expensive items, large professional items that never go on sale. There are some items that the thing you could hope for maybe most is that the manufacturer decides to do like a 0% financing deal. That's about the most you can hope for some items. Some items just never go on sale and they always take months to get. And sometimes it is impossible for the dealer like us to actually put things on sale because the margin is just too small. Like we make such little money that, single digit margin. We're not talking about like 50% margin. We're talking about like 8% margin or 9% margin or some terrible low amount of margin where we don't have the ability to discount. But there are some items that never go on sale, which do have margin. And during this time of year, the last sort of month of the year, we like to do an unadvertised sale. And the only way to get in on the unadvertised sale is to call or email the shop. But if you do this and say, hey, look, I'm looking for this package of stuff, or I'm looking to buy this, or I need to spend $20,000 on lenses, what can you do for me? We basically are able to find some sort of extra money, some savings for everyone. And no other camera shop that I'm aware of does this. And we literally, if it's at all possible, if it's something that we can put on sale, we do put it on sale. And because this is a dealer-based sale, we don't have the margin that the manufacturer does, but occasionally what someone wants to buy does have large margins. And so they can't actually realize a bunch of savings. Or if you've been trying to like buy something for a long period of time, like, I just can't afford it like this, I need to get something off. This is the time of year to actually do it. But you can't reference like a website. You can't reference a coupon code. And there's a lot of people out there who shop as consumers, and sort of the stereotype of the uninformed, uneducated consumer is that they go online, they look around, they find what it is, they might do a Google search or something else and go, that's the cheapest one, that's the one I'm going to add to cart, buy it. But if you've never worked as a business, or you're not actually a business or shopped as a business, that's not how the business world works. The business world, when it's a business to business, usually it's a whole quoting process or it's a bid process. It's a process in which prices are often negotiated and deals are negotiated, especially like on volume. So if you're looking to spend huge money, hundreds of thousands of dollars, it makes way more sense to talk to a business than to try to buy the items you want to buy as a consumer, as retail. So I know we've just lost a bunch of the audience, but I'm trying to offer a little bit of insight here in that.
No, Ilya, I'm wrapped in attention. Keep going.
If you can't do this at a Best Buy, you can't do this at our competitors online. If you try to just, reach out to these places and say, hey, I want to buy X and I'd like a better deal, they're going to say pound sand. We can't do anything for you. But when you're working with a business, especially a company that is set up for B2B, for that B2B sale, not that B2C sale, there's all these other doors that are open to you, not just with pricing, but also with potentially financing, with all kinds of issues. Now, there are some things that it might be considered slight disadvantage when you work as a business instead of a consumer. Return policies with businesses are generally a lot less liberal. Hey, 30 days, no questions asked, you can send it back. That usually doesn't happen when you're working as a business. In fact, in parts of the world, that doesn't even exist for consumers. I know in China, that is like completely verboten. You might get 7 days at most, but this isn't China. This is a different place. And I will tell you though, that as a business that tries to help other businesses, and by that I'm including professionals who go out and own their own gear and shoot their stuff, what we're doing is offering an alternative, a way for people to get what they're looking for and save some money. And it's not something that we can actually go and specify, because all of our dealer agreements with all the major brands out there say that we can't advertise below certain prices. It's called MAP pricing, or minimum advertised price. And if I can offer a tiny bit of education and help people save money and do better, and God forbid, click on a YouTube link or click on someone out there and buy it at, a big online retailer like an Amazon or something like that, you can do way better than that sort of pricing, especially if you're looking to buy a lot of stuff. But you have to shop differently. You don't get those sorts of deals. You don't get that sort of high-end technical service. You don't get someone who's going to completely help you with whatever it is you want to do, because frankly, those big consumer places, they don't actually employ people who know what it is that you're trying to do. They just employ people who are trying to sell you stuff. So my long-winded thing here is that if you need to spend money, especially during the last month of the year, possibly because of your taxes, you got to spend money or you're going to lose it, you should hit up Hot Red Cameras. You should call the main office, or you should email at Hot Red Cameras and say, I'm looking to do this. I've heard about the unadvertised sale that was being mentioned on the podcast. And you will get back a quote, most likely with a discount, which will make your life so much easier and better for you to recoup your expense for the type of work that you do. So
you're advertising the unadvertised sale.
Yes, I'm advertising the unadvertised sale. But this is word of mouth. And I'm not actually specifying particular brands. There are brands. If I was to say any brand, that would get me in trouble. If I was to say actual discount amounts, that would get me in trouble. So what I'm saying is there is a sale going on. I can't tell you anything about it. But if you do want to save some money, here's how you would go about doing it. And I got a really, really nice thank you via Facebook from a client who was like, thanks so much. I've been looking at this forever. I could never save a penny on it. And now I bought twice as many because of what you were doing. So that's really nice. Great. Yeah. So I'm happy that I could make someone happy. I'm happy that we could do this. And we will keep doing this typically in basically from 5 weeks before the end of the year, probably until the end of time, because you kind of have to be in the know. You have to know that this is going on. You have to make a request. And if you're not shopping like a consumer, you'll definitely save some money and get a better experience to boot.
Can you tell me to pound sand anyway?
Pound sand, Ben.
Oh, it feels good. I love it when people tell me to pound sand.
Hey, let's thank some people today. Who do we have to thank?
As always, we have to thank Alana Cody. Alana, who has set up some just outrageously exciting interviews. We might have done one of my bucket list interviews of all time yesterday.
It's true.
But that story is even more complicated, and I'm not going to get into that on here. But still, a very, very exciting interview. One of the ones when we started this podcast, maybe we can get this cinematographer on. We've talked to them.
Yeah, that's great.
So
it's true. Who else should we thank?
Ben Katz, who I really feel bad for the job I'm making him do today because my on-the-road rig is a little jankety. And then last but never least, none of these people are least, Kays Alektrakci, who composed every scrap of music that you've heard on the podcast. You can find everything you've ever wanted to know about Kays at musicbykays.com. Go there, message him literally anything. Come on, people. There's many thousands of you listening to the sound of my voice. Somebody just say anything to Kays, please. Oh my God. But Kays is a phenomenal composer, director. He's a VFX guy. He's a color grade maestro. He's telling me that AI is putting us out of business. To that, I say, Kays, you're putting all of us out of business because you do all the jobs.
I was going to say, I don't think Kays is about to go out of business because of AI. I think that he's probably pretty safe.
Kays maybe is AI.
Oh, he is
shit.
AI. Now,
oh, man.
That's the twist at the end of the movie.
Ooh, that's freaky.
All right, Ben, where can people find you if they want to track you down?
Please find me in Dayton, Ohio, freezing my tits off. You can find me online at benrock.com. You can find me in many places at Neptune Salad, including Twitter and Mastodon. So if you're sickening of the bird place, as many of us are, or the bird site, whatever people are calling it, feel free to hit me up on Mastodon and, check out, I didn't even talk about the NFT that I released last week, but maybe we can talk about that next week.
I think that sounds like a plan. Hey, speaking of random things, I heard someone refer to Yahoo as the website at What the Cowboy Says. I'm like, What the Cowboy Says? Oh, okay, What the Cowboy Says, that website. I was like, Yahoo? Yeah, anyway, Yahoo.
I'm cool with Mastodon, but I'm not cool with calling my posts toots. I'm
toots.
sorry.
Are they really toots? Is that what they are?
That's what they call it. I'm not doing it. When I first got on Twitter, I didn't want to call them tweets, and eventually we all got inured to the stupidity of Twitter. Yes. And maybe the same will happen with Mastodon. My guess is we're not gonna fully commit to another microblogging site like that. It's going to be a bit of Hive, a bit of Mastodon, a bit of Twitter, a bit of Post. There's a bunch of them right now. So anyway.
Well, you can also find me over at Hot Red Cameras if you were still listening to this after my whole tirade about shopping. And if you guys don't want to hear any more shopping tips, then email me, message me at LinkedIn or at Hot Red Cameras. I'm just Ilya at Hot Red Cameras, and tell me you don't want to hear about it, and I won't talk about it anymore. So.
All right, well, Ilya, let's take us out.
All right, thanks for listening.
This has been the Cinematography Podcast, presented by Hot Rod Cameras. Find your next camera, lens, or accessory on the web at hotrodcameras.com. Don't forget to subscribe to our show on iTunes and connect with us on Facebook and Twitter. Thanks for listening.